I'm recording this video shortly after finishing another video where I talk about the social contract being ripped up. I did not realize how poignant that main idea was going to be. And if I was to re-record it right now, it would be a whole lot more angry. And the reason why I'm angry is because when I got done filming that video, friends of mine shared with me the footage of a shooting that happened in Minnesota. The ICU nurse who was shot and killed by Border Patrol agents. This channel is not about reacting to everything that is going on in the country. This channel is more about overall trends. But I think this situation brings a couple trends really to life. And I wanted to take a quick moment and respond and react to those trends and how they're playing out right now and why it's important. The first trend is the social contract is being ripped up. And those in power, and here's a lesson to take away for everyone, have a very different narrative that they're using in rhetoric versus what the actions are speaking on their behalf. What do I mean by that? Let's unpack that a little bit. What I mean by that is what it means to be American is to have rights. We thought as a country that our rights were not being upheld by the King of England, and we fought a revolution to be free of that, to establish a government that says, we have certain rights, and in our Constitution, we have a freedom of speech, a freedom to address grievances of our government. That's what our Declaration of Independence was. That's what it's okay to peacefully protest. It's not only legal, but it's like the ultimate American thing you can do. We have a Second Amendment. As much as we debate exactly what that means, we have a right to bear arms, especially if you do it legally, which in this recent shooting seems to be the case, but it's so early yet, so I won't go too far into that one. We have a right from unwanted searches and seizures, the Fourth Amendment, but yet we have ICE and Border Patrol going into American houses without warrants and kidnapping people. We have ICE and Border Patrol agents picking kids up off the street to use them as bait for their parents. That isn't law enforcement at that point, and it's not American at that point. You see, most people in this country have no problem with law enforcement trying to enforce the laws. What we do have a problem with is a government who, with the people in power, who sabotage any solution to immigration just so they can win an election, i.e. Donald Trump sabotaging the immigration bill, which wasn't perfect, wasn't going to solve everything, but would have been a step to solving the overall solution, just so he can come to power and make it all worse. We have people in power who only think that your rights as an American are mere conveniences. And whenever it's not supporting their effort and their worldview, then it's a convenience to be ignored. They don't want you to protest. They don't want you to speak out. They don't want you to be out there. They don't want you to be able to carry a firearm. They don't want you to be able to get in the way of wherever federal law enforcement apparently wants to go. If our rights are just conveniences, then this system stops working really quickly. And here's the third thing I'll say about just overall government. You have people, the first two things are Trump sabotaged the efforts to actually fix the system, which needs to be improved and needs to be fixed, but only made it worse. You have an administration, Trump and the cabinet secretaries and everyone else you see immediately speaking out, to include Stephen Miller, without the facts, really just supporting rights if they're rights of people who are actually supporting their agenda. That's not American. The third point is this. It's when you choose to ignore American rights, when you choose to not fix the problems that are at your feet as a leader, when you choose to actually actively make them worse by hiring thousands upon thousands of people, offering them almost no training, offering them sign-on bonuses. And I'll get to the personal dynamics of this in my next part of this. But when you do that and then unleash them on the streets and basically give them a green light to do what they're doing over and over and over again, and then back them up and pardon people who have done things like January 6th insurrection, you pardon people who actually brought drugs into this country, like the Honduran president. And then you do a whole bunch of other stuff like that. Your own actions are showing that you think what you're doing politically is so unpopular that you have to use threats and intimidation and state-sponsored violence to keep people online. And here's the foundational truth. Textbook definition of terrorism is using threats, intimidation, and violence to achieve a political end. We have a set of leadership in this country right now that is more focused on using terrorism as tactics to govern than actually solving the problems. That's why I'm pissed. In addition to that, you can look out and say, hey, as messed up as it is, I get why billionaires would want to trample on your rights if they don't agree with you. I get why billionaires would want to intimidate people for doing stuff that's unpopular, like taking people away healthcare for folks while giving billionaires tax breaks. I get why they would do it. But why would working class Americans sign up for this? After all, like, it's not the billionaires who are these agents out on these streets. And by the way, for all the law enforcement officials, whether they're local, state, or federal, who are actually trying to do the professional job that they signed up to do, it's making their lives more dangerous and harder as well. But fundamentally, the reason why you get to now why so many working class people, thousands across this country, are willing to be a part of this is because we made decades and decades and decades worth of decisions that made it harder and harder and harder to survive and get ahead. Unemployment is jumping up. Underemployment, people not earning what they're actually worth, is sky high. It has been that way for quite some time, but we still have a culture where the men are supposed to be the providers, where men are supposed to be able to make it, particularly white men should be able to make it. The system was kind of made for us. And yet the system in reality is rigged. It's not working for millions of Americans. And so you get dissatisfaction. You get that in a country that has the more per capita firearms than any other country in the world. And if this wasn't the United States of America, you would say, wow, a whole bunch of working age men who can't seem to find a job to make ends meet and provide for their families and their loved ones with more firearms per capita than anywhere else in the world, that's a powder keg, because everywhere else that has ever happened in the country, violence ensues. And instead of recognizing that we have the powder keg and that people are signing up for it, you have leaders who are shooting off sparks everywhere. And I don't think they're prepared for what comes next, because here's the unfortunate reality on a human level. You see, I fought in wars. I led soldiers. I had to make life and death decisions. It's not easy. When you're representing the United States government, not only do you have to be able to bring lethal force when needed, more importantly, you're actually trained to de-escalate. You're trained to not have to use it. And what I'm seeing from the actions of these videos is these agents either weren't trained or are ignoring the training in order to have a more aggressive stance. Again, in my opinion, I think that goes back to terrorism. But here's the fundamental problem at an individual level. When you do that, when you start looking at everyone else as the enemy, and you just have your mask and body armor and no one knows who you are, and what you have to understand, if you're watching this and not understanding it, is this. It's addictive. The most powerful feeling you can ever feel is the ability to take someone else's life. And there are chemicals and emotions that go through your head and brain that are not normal. And you're around a whole bunch of other people that are amped up to go do the work and be aggressive and basically be agitators who are official representatives of the United States government. And you ask people who have felt nothing but insecurity about what it means to be a man, that they can't provide despite trying harder and harder and harder, that they can't seem to make ends meet in a system that, from a myth perspective, was made for them. And then you turn around and hand them 50 grand, a steady job that we're all paying for, by the way, a gun and the authority to use it. Well, now you took a whole bunch of insecure men and gave them exactly what they're likely to be addicted to. And that's where I really worry that this is about to become a whole lot worse. And here's the really tragic part. If we actually have leaders in this country at the moment, and Heather Cox Richardson put out a short video, which I think was spot on, it would take 16 Republicans at the national level to stand up and say, no more of this. We want ICE agents to be trained. We want Border Patrol agents to be trained. We want a code of conduct. We want rules of engagement the way that we would do in any other country in the world. And that's the point I'll end on. Get busy calling the Republicans in DC, because here's the reality. If I would have done this in Afghanistan or Iraq or anywhere where I was deployed, if I would have had my soldiers beat up someone who was filming me, spray pepper spray in their eyes, throw them to the ground while beating the crap out of them, have one of my soldiers disarm the weapon that they had in their belt, and then shot them, I'd be in prison. And rightfully so. This isn't the rules that we should be playing by. It's not the America. It's not the country we want to live in. It sounds, and everything I'm seeing, it looks like it's the direction that this administration is hell-bent on creating. We deserve better. We can do better. Be part of the change. That's what it's going to take. Thank you. If you haven't yet, please click like on this video, drop a comment below, and click that subscribe button. It'll help the YouTube algorithm make sure that these videos are getting into your feed. Thank you.